Scrutinies. There are indications that Jung discussed the material from his self-experimentation with colleagues. In March of 1918, he wrote to Lang, who had sent him some of his own fantasies. As you've observed correctly yourself, it is very important to experience the contents of the unconscious before forming any opinion about it. I very much agree with you that we have to grapple with the knowledge content of Gnosticism and Neoplatonianism. These are the systems that contain the materials which are destined to become the foundation of a theory of the unconscious. I've been working on this myself for quite some time and also have had ample opportunity to compare my experiences, at least partially, with those of other people. That's why I was very pleased to hear pretty much the same opinions from you. I'm glad that all on your own you have discovered this area of work waiting to be tackled. Up to now, I lack any co-workers, and I'm happy that you want to join forces with me. I consider it very important that you extricate your own material in an unbiased way from the unconscious as carefully as possible. My own material is very voluminous, very complicated, and in part I've worked it through up to almost complete. Very vivid clarifications. But what's completely missing is modern material to compare it with. Zarathrustra has been formed too consciously. Meyrink retouches the material in an aesthetic way. Furthermore, I feel he is lacking in religious sincerity. During this period, Jung continued transcribing the draft into Liber Novice and adding paintings. After 1918, the fantasies in the black books became more intermittent. The draft of the first two sections of Liber Novice had contained fantasies from October of 1913 to February of 1914. In the winter of 1917, Jung wrote a fresh manuscript called Scrutinies, which began where he had left off. In this, he transcribed fantasies from April of 1914 through June of 1916. He included the sermons, now with commentaries on each by Philemon. Philemon indicated that his teaching compensated or made up for what the dead lacked through providing precisely those conceptions which they needed. In Scrutinies, there is no clear separation between a first layer of fantasies and a second layer of commentary, and the text is not formally divided into distinct chapters. Here and there, Jung added some passages linking the fantasies to paragraphs that depicted his subsequent understanding of their significance. The realization of the significance of the self is portrayed in Scrutinies. On September 18th of 1915, Jung wrote, "Through uniting with the self, we reach the God." In the autumn of 1917, he added, "I must say this is not with reference to the opinions of the ancients or that authority, but because I have experienced it." This unshakable experience was nothing less than the experience of God. The self is not God, although we reach the God through the self. He realized that he had to serve the self, and that this service was also service of God and of mankind. And at the same time, he had to free himself from God. Since the God I experienced is more than love, he is also hate. He is more than beauty, he is also abomination. He is more than wisdom, he is also meaninglessness. He is more than power, he is also powerlessness. He is more than omnipresence, he is also my creature. This description of Jung's experience of God corresponds to the vision of Abraxas in the Sermons. The realization of the significance of the self for Jung was not only a conceptual but also an experiential matter. Jung had some powerful experience. On June 27th, 1917. He wrote to Emma Jung that 3 days prior he was on the Point de Cray, a mountain just northwest of Chateau d'Aux. It was a glorious day. On the summit, I had a wonderful ecstatic feeling. Last evening, I had the most remarkable mystical experience, a feeling of connection of many millennia. It was like a transfiguration. Today I'm probably going to hell again for this. I want to cling to you since you are my center, a symbol of the human, a protection against all diamonds. This letter underscores the centrality of Emma Jung in his life. In Scrutinies, he realized that much of the earlier part of the book had been given to him by Philemon. This represented a disidentification. There was a prophetic, wise old man in him, someone whom he was not identical to. The critical task of Jung's working over of his fantasies consisted in the differentiation of voices and characters. The following are examples. In the Black Books, it is Jung's I who speaks the sermons to the dead. In Scrutinies, it is not Jung but Philemon. In the Black Books, the main figure, Jung's I, has dialogues with his soul. In some sections of Liber Novice, it is the serpent or the bird. In one conversation in January of 1916, his soul explained to him that when the above and below are not united, she falls into 3 parts: a serpent, the human soul, and the bird or the heavenly soul, which visits the gods. Thus, Jung's revision, in which he now differentiated the soul into serpent, human soul, and bird, here can be seen to reflect his understanding on the tripartite nature of his soul.